Welcome back to Daily Harmony. We are going deep, deep into some really cool ACM stuff today.
Okay.
It's lesson 142, and it's a review.
Right.
It's a review of 123 and 124, and
It brings them together.
it brings them together beautifully.
Yeah.
And it's really about two key ideas, I think.
Right.
The gifts that God gives us and our oneness with God.
Absolutely. And it asks you to bring those two seemingly distinct concepts together and recognize how they support one another to
Right.
change your perception.
So this is kind of a deep dive into how can we use these ideas
Yeah.
to cultivate inner peace and maybe
It's the
see the world a bit differently.
It's about shifting your perception from
Yeah.
abundance and
Yes.
really changing how you
Yeah.
view the world.
It's like putting on a new pair of glasses
It is, yeah.
and seeing everything with a new lens.
Absolutely.
And I think that the idea of gratitude, which is
Yeah.
front and center with this lesson,
Yeah.
is really powerful.
Yeah. So many people are walking around looking for what's wrong, focusing on what's wrong, what's missing.
Right.
And the COLA course really tries to redirect your focus
Yeah.
to abundance, to the gifts.
Right. And the core course really emphasizes gratitude.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if you can tell me, like, why is gratitude so important in the context of ACIM?
Well, it's so important because it, like we were just saying, it redirects your attention.
Okay.
And instead of focusing on what seems to be missing, what's going wrong, what's
Right.
difficult in your life, gratitude helps you recognize the abundance that's already present.
It's almost like tuning a radio.
It is, yeah.
Instead of being stuck on the static,
Right.
you can turn into the clear.
You tune into that frequency
Yeah.
of gratitude.
Yeah. And so what are the, like,
Yeah.
we think of gifts, we think of, like,
Sure.
presents or a nice job or something like that.
Yeah.
But what are those gifts in the context of the course?
Well, like you said, we often go to those material
Right.
possessions or events.
Yeah.
But in the course, what's being talked about are more of the inherent spiritual inheritance that we
Yeah.
have.
Like, what would be some examples?
So love, joy, peace,
Okay.
our perfect being,
Mm-hmm.
the ability to create all of those things.
So it's like our true nature.
Exactly.
That's really what we should be grateful for.
Well, absolutely. And they manifest in so many different ways in our lives.
Sure. So for people who are listening, are there some practical things that they can do
Yes.
to kind of cultivate that sense of gratitude in their lives?
Absolutely. So one of the practices that the Spores talks about is gratitude journaling.
Okay. Now, what's that like?
So it can be as simple as every day, maybe in the morning or at night before bed,
Yeah.
just taking a few moments to jot down 3 things that you're grateful for.
Okay.
And they can be very, very small things or larger things.
Mhm.
But the act of writing them down helps to train your mind to be more attuned to abundance.
Right. You're basically focusing your attention
Exactly.
on that which you're grateful for.
Yeah. It's like we said, it's like retraining
Right.
your brain, your neural pathways.
Right. And there's another practice that the course suggests.
Yes.
Which is the use of affirmations.
Yes,
And I think the affirmation that goes with this particular lesson is,
it is.
I thank my Father for his gifts to me.
That's it.
So how can that help us?
It can help us because, again, it's that repetition. We're taking those words, we're putting them in our mind.
Yeah.
And the more we repeat them, the more we begin to believe them.
So it's like we're training our minds again
We are, yeah.
to look for those gifts
Absolutely.
and then be thankful when we find them.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so the other idea that this lesson really emphasizes is
Yes.
oneness with God,
Yes.
which can be a little bit of a heady concept. So how can we kind of break that down so
Yeah.
it's a little easier to understand?
Well, the Course says that sense of separation that we feel
Right.
is really an illusion. It's something that we've created in our minds.
Through the ego.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in truth, we are all connected. We all come from the same source.
Right. So it's like we are all part of
The
one
relationship.
big beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Right. And so if we can recognize that
Yeah.
that oneness, it helps us to
Absolutely.
dissolve that feeling of separation, which
Yeah. I mean, so many of our problems, so much of the pain and suffering that we experience comes from that feeling of separation from other people, from God.
yeah.
And so if we can begin to remember that we are all connected, it changes everything.
And I imagine it really affects how we
It does.
look at other people
Yes.
and how we treat other people.
Absolutely. Because if you can truly see that we are all part of the same thing,
Right.
How could you possibly want to hurt anyone?
Right. Or be angry with anyone.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are there any practical things that we can do to kind of help us experience that?
Yeah, so the Course recommends a meditation on oneness.
Okay. What would that look like?
So you would just sit quietly
Uh,
and focus on the idea that you are one with Gaga,
okay.
that you are one with everything.
Right.
Some people like to visualize a light, a white light that encompasses everything,
Okay.
and see themselves as part of that light.
And is there anything else that we can do?
There is another thing that the Course suggests is reflective writing.
Oh, okay. What's that?
So you would just sit down
Okay.
with the pen and paper
Mm-hmm.
and explore, write down what it means to you to be one with God.
Okay.
How might that change your thinking? How might that change
Right.
your behavior?
So we have gratitude and we have oneness.
Yes.
Now, how are those two ideas connected?
Well, when you recognize the gifts in your life,
Yeah.
it's natural to be grateful.
Right.
And when you're grateful, you recognize that there's a source from which those gifts come.
Right. So it's like
And that source is God.
they go hand in hand.
You do, yeah.
Yeah. And that's really beautiful, but life isn't always easy.
No, it's not.
So how can these ideas help us when we're facing challenges?
They can help us because, again, if we can remember to be grateful,
Yeah.
even in the midst of difficulty,
Yeah.
and to remember that we're not alone,
Mhm.
that we're connected to God, that we're connected to everyone else,
Yeah.
it gives us strength.
It's like a
Yeah.
source of strength
Yeah.
when we're in the middle of something difficult.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I guess the challenge for me
Mm-hmm.
is, how do I remember these things?
Right.
When I'm in the thick of it.
Well, that's why these practices are so important.
Okay.
Gratitude journaling,
Yeah.
the affirmation, the meditation on oneness,
Right.
the reflective writing.
Uh-huh.
These are all tools
Okay.
that we can use
Well,
to
all right.
help us remember.
To remember who we are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to remember that we're not alone.
Yeah. And to remember how much we're loved
Exactly.
and how much we have to be grateful for.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much
You're welcome.
for talking with me about this today and for helping me
My pleasure.
and hopefully all of our listeners to kind of
Yeah,
remember these really important things.
I hope so too.
Yeah. So I guess thanks for taking this deep dive with us today
Absolutely.
into lesson 142. And
Yes.
we hope that you'll try out some of these exercises
Yes.
and see if they can bring a little more
Have a
harmony
secure day.
or joy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Well,
Okay.
we'll see you next time. Sounds good.